Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this afternoon's press conference being hosted by the Royal Grenada Police Force. My name is Leslie Ann Johnson, and it's good to have you with us. So we have with us today Mr. Edwin Martin, the Acting Commissioner of Police. He's closest to me. Then we have Assistant Commissioner of Police, Mr. Michael Francois, and Superintendent Vanny Kerwin in charge of Community Relations. So just to give you a little breakdown, Commissioner of Police Edwin Martin will be giving a general overview this afternoon, as well as touching on the issue at Fort Judy. That's very topical these days. Assistant Commissioner Michael Francois will deal with operational issues, and Superintendent Kerwin will talk about the RGPF's plans to ensure that the country is safe for the hurricane season. Gentlemen, good afternoon. So I'll start with you. I will start with you, Commissioner Edwin Martin.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ms. Johnson, for your very warm introduction. And let me say a pleasant good afternoon to members of the media, members of the listening public viewing this press conference at this point in time. Let me also seize this opportunity to once again say a special thank you to you, the members of the media, and the general public for your continued support to the RGPF during this unusual and unprecedented period in the fight against COVID-19. Your continued support and cooperation is pivotal in us ensuring the continued safety and security of our nation. Most of our accomplishments to date can be directly attributed to the unwavering support of you, the members of the public, and our stakeholders in a general sense. As indicated by our moderator, I will speak specifically to two issues. First, it is the Fort Judy incident, which is very topical. And then I want to make some brief remarks as it relates to some development and incidents that has happened in Grove. But first, for the Fort Judy incident. It is important to note that this matter I'm about to speak to is and will be before the court. And as such, elements of evidence cannot be discussed here, as it can potentially result in pretrial prejudices that can negatively impact the outcome of the case. Consequently, our explanation will be limited to the appropriateness of the police response in this matter, which obviously has been a sore issue from members of the public. So I'll get into what we have as a summary of the facts in this particular case. At about 8:08:55 on Thursday the 25th, the police received a call about a hit-and-run accident involving a dog. As a result, a response was initiated by the South St. George Police Station to what was believed at the material point in time to be a traffic-related matter. However, on arrival of the scene, and from his observation, having obtained brief statements from the parties involved, the officer clearly identified that this matter was more than an accident involving a vehicle or a dog. Consequently, the officer proceeded to obtain measurements in relation to the accident aspect of the incident and took brief statements from the other persons in relation to issues of assault and harm. The officer issued, in the harm case, the officer issued the aggrieved persons a medical form to seek medical attention. This form, as per the officer's instruction, was to return to the police. Might I indicate that the medical form is a recognized instrument of the police in our investigative process, and it is part of evidence that can be submitted in a criminal investigation relative to a complaint of harm. By policing standards, the mere issuance of this form clearly indicates that an investigation has been initiated. If the police advised civil or private action in this case, it would be a contradiction to issue in a medical form, because the medical form in and of itself, as said previously, is a part of police procedure in an investigation leading to potential criminal charges. It is reasonable to ask that in this particular case, and we all are familiar by now with some of the circumstances, it is reasonable to ask why the police did not detain or charge the alleged perpetrators for the assault or harm. I need to indicate that the completion and return of a medical form is pivotal in determining the extent of harm caused and therefore the type of charge that should be brought against an alleged perpetrator. Therefore, charges could not be laid prior to the receipt of a medical form. It should be noted further that the police authority allows us for detention of persons in suspected criminal activity for up to 48 hours. Thereafter, without sufficient evidence for charges to be laid appropriately, the detained individual will have to be released. Note that 48 hours after the occurrence of this incident, the police was not yet in receipt of the medical form. However, following the subsequent receipt of the completed medical form and a review of statements and interviews of eyewitnesses, the police has since arrested and charged 2 persons. Sarah Hutton and Donald Kavinga have been arrested for causing harm. They have since been released, however, on bail in the sum of $10,000 with one surety. This offense carries a maximum penalty of $3,000 or imprisonment for 1 year or both. The other traffic-related issues in this matter is still under investigation, and a clear determination has not yet been made. I want to therefore take the opportunity here to assure the general public of the RGPF professional and objectivity in handling matters reported to it, and in treating with issues of public interest. All of these matters brought to our attention, irrespective of parties involved, will always be carefully, diligently, and methodologically investigated. I will now turn very briefly to some developments in the Grove area. Over the past 2 days, as we see, and let me preface this comment in Grove and take the opportunity now to wish all of our fishermen island-wide a happy Fisherman Birthday, and to indicate that this year we do recognize that the celebration of Fisherman's Birthday is in very unusual circumstances as we continue to fight COVID-19 as a nation. And so we expect some understanding for flexibility as to what can and cannot be permissible in the current circumstances that we do operate. Over the past 2 days, we have been witnessing a burst of response that has been challenging for law enforcement in some respects. To date, over the past 2 days, 3 persons as a result have been arrested for non-compliance with law enforcement and violation of our regulation as it relates to COVID-19. We take no pleasure in having to execute these arrests, but it becomes pivotal for us to maintain law and order. I also identify very clearly the circulation of some videos and pictures in social media, some true, but others that have been embellished with reflections of carnival as if to purport the people of St. John as lawless and not abiding. I want to advise persons to please refrain from those practices, as you are painting a picture worse than what exists in reality. And finally, I want to appeal to our people of St. John's and Guelph in particular to be tolerant, exercise patience, and work with the nation as we seek to resolve and fight the issue of COVID-19 as a nation. We will ask your understanding this year to make the sacrifice as the rest of the nation is making, so that as a nation we can continue to look into the safety and security of everyone. We hope that by next year this time, Fisherman's Birthday can therefore be celebrated in a bigger and better form. With that, I thank you, and I will pass you back to moderator, who will control the rest of the briefing.
Thank you, Acting Commissioner of Police Edwin Martin. We go now to Assistant Commissioner of Police, Mr. Michael Francois, and he will be dealing with operational issues. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Leslie, and a pleasant good afternoon to members of the media and listeners to this press brief. As we continue in this curfew period, the Royal Grenada Police Force continues with its mission to provide operational support and to continue with its mission to provide safety and security to the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. And so I just want to bring the nation up to date on some of the recent activities that have been taking place operationally throughout the state. The first one I want to draw to your attention is the arrest of a male person in the St. Mark's area. On Wednesday, the 24th of June, 2020, Mitch Phillip of Queen Street, Victoria, St. Mark's, was arrested, formally charged with non-capital murder. He is alleged to have intentionally caused the death of Chanel Alexis by unlawful harm. He made his first court appearance at the Guelph Magistrate Court on Friday, the 26th of June, 2020, and was remanded to Her Majesty's Prison. There was also a recent breakthrough in an unsolved murder, which was outstanding for about 8 years, where earlier this month we charged 2 St. Mark's residents, Jamal Young and Ronald Fletcher, for the 2012 murder of 78-year-old Emilio Nelson of Non-Parel St. Mark's. Nelson was found dead in November 2012. Both men were also charged for robbery, arson, and burglary. There was also a development in a fatal accident which occurred sometime earlier in 2019. The driver of the vehicle involved in the October 27, 2019 fatal accident that claimed the life of George Etienne Jones, 72 years of La Sagesse St. David's, has been charged. Jovas Mann, prison officer of La Sagesse St. David's, was charged on Monday the 22nd of June 2020 with causing death by dangerous driving. He was granted bail in the sum of $30,000 with 2 sureties. As part of his bail condition, he also has to surrender all travel documents and seek permission from the court to leave the state. Additionally, the drug squad and other arms of the Royal Grenada Police Force continue in its fight against drugs. And one of our recent operations on Wednesday, the 24th of June, 2020, police discovered 35 pounds of marijuana with an estimated street value of $79,380 at the home of Akil Alexis, who resides at Molyneux St. George's. Both Akil and Kelsey Barry were charged for trafficking in a controlled drug and were taken to court this morning. They were both placed on $20,000 bail. Additionally, the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force has begun serving notices on persons who have derelict vehicles on our roadways, and this is going to continue as we assist other stakeholders in ensuring that our roadways are safe and that the issue of rodents, etc., that has been plaguing us would be something of the past. I also want to appeal and remind members of the public that we are still under curfew. Although we have received indications that there will be an ease in the curfew and there will be more, that it may shift from 9 to 11, we await the new regulations to confirm that this is the case. So we remind the public that all the regulations and restrictions that are in the regulations with respect to curfew, which speaks to why you must be outside, where you should be going when you're in a curfew period, we want you to abide by that. All of the regulations that are going to be coming, we're going to let you know if there are anything new that you would be responsible, and we would expect you to follow the guidelines that are issued with respect to these regulations. So we are waiting until these regulations are here and we can speak further on it. So for this, I want to rest here at this time, Leslie.
Thank you very much, Assistant Commissioner Michael Francois. We turn now to Superintendent Vanny Cohen, Officer in charge of Community Relations.
Good afternoon to everybody, and thank you very much, Ms. Johnson. Good afternoon to all members of the media. Saturday's freak weather system that uprooted a few trees and knocked out power supply in several areas of the country is a stark reminder that we are in the hurricane season, even as we battle the challenges of COVID-19. As an organization, the RGPF has prepared as best we can to deal with any eventuality of any weather system that may affect our islands. We have completed our inventory station by station and have done our needs analysis identifying our gaps. We have identified our safe houses in the event that we have to relocate any of our police stations. We have identified our forward deployment locations and are working with business owners to form up final details should the need arise. We urge every Grenadian to develop a family plan for the family and to procure essential medical and other emergency and essential supplies, ensuring that flashlights, transistor radios, charged cell phones are part of the listing. Important documents must be secured in waterproof containers, and drinking water to last a few days must be stored. Our emergency numbers of 911, 4403-999, and all police stations can be contacted for assistance once telephone services are operational in the passing of any hurricane or other weather system. Should we experience any land slippages, downed trees, or need for service from the public, we ask the public to partner with us in an effort to speedily return the country to normalcy should we get to that stage. We continue to work harmoniously with NADMA and other stakeholders to ensure Grenada's preparedness and readiness in case any weather system affect our nation in this hurricane season. We urge members of the public to be vigilant, and we continue to ask for partnership as we continue to work together to ensure that Grenada remains safe, peaceful, and that we can return to normalcy should we have any weather system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Vanny Cohen. Colleagues, the floor is now open.
I just want to add, please allow me, Letziana, I just want to add to Mr. Cohen's very comprehensive brief, because the matter of hurricane and disaster preparation is a very serious issue. And I want to add to the public that this year, because of the COVID-19 environment, we will not be able to carry out the usual simulation exercise that we do in getting our troops ready, should in case we are impacted by a weather system. Nonetheless, we will be carrying out a tabletop exercise for all of our commanders, and we will invite stakeholders to participate in this tabletop exercise. We will also, during this tabletop exercise, be drilling down at least 3 command levels below the commander of respective stations and departments to ensure that we build redundancy if we happen to be impacted with any weather system. So I'm saying this to let the public know that notwithstanding the lack of our ability, given the COVID environment, to carry out a stimulation exercise, we will be turning to the next best option to ensure that the RGPF machinery is well oiled and prepared to react appropriately should in case we are impacted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, any questions? The floor is now opened. Hello, can you please identify yourself? And go ahead with your question.
Christina John.
Go right ahead, Christina. We're hearing you.
Good afternoon to your panel. My question would be, when would the individuals charged for the incident at Fort Judy, when would they be making their first court appearance?
They're expected to be in court on the 28th of July, 28th of July 2020.
Okay, there were two other individuals also mentioned, according to the reports that we have received. Are they of adult age? And what would happen in cases like this? Would the parents be held responsible if they're not of adult age?
Thank you, Christelina. I will answer this question. The approach to this is that the initial statement from a witness of the incident first cited two persons as responsible for inflicting injuries. Prior to my arrival for this press brief now, I have been told that that individual has since returned to the police with added information of other persons. We will review this, we will examine this, take the information that is taken, and where there is evidence to substantiate the charging of additional persons, those actions will be taken.
Christelina, do you have another question?
Thank you. Yes, please. I have another question as it relates to animal control. What does the law state in relation to the control of animals?
There are a number of, thanks for your question, Christelina. There are a number of pieces of legislation that deals with and covers that particular issue. It is my understanding also that there is part of the covenant of the Fort Judy that has some component that deals with animals and how they should be tended to. We are reviewing the legislation as it relates to animals and they're being unleashed, and at some point additional charges regarding to that will be considered, and we'll see where we are at with that.
Colleagues,
Thank you.
Thank you, Christelina. Janelle McDonald, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, Les, and to your panel. One of my questions was very similar to Christelina's. I was going to ask you about the responsibility of owners to not have their dogs running down vehicles that could cause accidents. And I heard Superintendent mention a review there. I don't know if he wanted to add any more on it. But my other question is, if there is an altercation where bodily harm happens, what is the role of the police in pressing charges without cost to the victim?
Janelle, can you just repeat that last question, please?
Okay, so I'm asking, if there is an altercation where bodily harm is caused, what is the role of the police in pressing charges without cost to the victim?
Thank you very much for the question, and my apologies, I was a bit distracted in the initial asking of the question. Whenever a harm is reported, or any offense for the matter of fact, criminal offense, that a person report to the police officers, the police have an obligation to investigate those matters without any charge to the complainant. There is no charge expected with doing this investigation. But I want to use your question to add another layer in answering the elements, because you raise an interesting question speaking to bodily harm. One of the reasons why the police has to hold in terms of the charge that they lay is simply because a medical practitioner must make comments onto that form as to the degree of harm which will be instructive for the police to lay charges. And there are many different types of harm: causing harm, wounding, grievous harm, maiming. There's a whole dangerous harm. There are a lot of harm offenses. So when harm is caused to an individual, the police cannot determine that from observation or from a person's complaint. So we depend heavily on the medical practitioner, or the doctor rather, to give us details of the injury of harm so the appropriate classification of charge can be laid. And finally, to your question, matters complained to the police requiring criminal matters, requiring the police investigation, there is no charge to the parties reporting. I hope that answers your question.
Do you have another question, Janelle?
No, thanks. That's it for now.
Oh, I agree. Thank you. Linda Straker, good afternoon. Linda? Okay, seems as though Linda is not there. Somebody's asking on social media if the persons involved in the Fort Judy incident have their passports been held onto by the police.
Thank you for the question. It is not, I am not aware of passports being confiscated. If passport has been taken, that has to be, it's out of the remit of the police force to determine the handover of travel documents. Generally, you find the withholding of travel documents might accompany declarations that are made by the magistrate who sets the bail in these circumstances. So it's not in the purview of the police to determine what happens with travel documents. I hope that answers your question, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Linda, are you there now?
Yes, I am here.
Go right ahead.
To all.
Good afternoon.
My question has to do with some clarity regarding that incident on Fort Judy. What has been told, well, can you tell us, when I did a while ago, the issue of passport came up. Can you tell us what are the nationalities of these the two who have been charged? And in charging them, was it a case where the police went to pick them up, or they were asked to come into the station? And the commissioner make mention of other potential traffic issues. Can he enlighten us as to what are the other potential traffic issues that is currently under investigation?
Thank you very much, Ms. Stricker, for your question. Remember, the initial call to the police was an issue of a hit-and-run situation. The police officer on the scene fleshed out a number of different other factors, and information was led to him. So there is this issue about an hit-and-run as it relates to dog, whether it is speeding and dangerous driving. That's one aspect. There are other information we have about individuals blocking the road and removing keys from vehicle and these sorts of issues. So there are a lot of traffic-related circumstances, whether the road was blocked or not, and we need to delve deeper into those issues, and where appropriate, have appropriate charges and so brought against person if there is evidence to substantiate any sort of traffic-related offenses.
Thank you for the clarity. My other question was the nationality of the persons who have been charged.
The individuals are of, I think it's Irish nationality, subject to verification.
That's it for you, Linda?
Yeah, thanks for that, because we've been hearing all sorts of nationalities, so I will go with what the police has said. My other question has to do with the Guam. Are you saying that persons would have composed videos giving a reflection of what not happening in Guam and what probably happened before? And what are the charges, the persons who have been arrested in Guam, under what section of the Emergency Powers Act were they charged? Because there are different, there are a whole load of offenses that can. What are the offenses they've been charged? You don't know what section.
Yeah. If you give me a minute, I will come back to you with the actual charges that those individuals had. But I believe they are really related to violation of curfew hours. That would be the essence of those charges. And I'm happy you asked this, because out of these circumstances, I also want to educate the public that on two nights, we have had situations where the police, in attempting to maintain law and order in this vicinity, the vehicle was stoned. And we had in one case, a police officer was injured on his hand because stone was spelt at the police officers as well. So the issue of throwing stones against the vehicle, I think 2 persons were arrested and charged for that, and one would have been, I think, the issue of curfew. So, but I will seek to confirm, but I believe that is actually the 2 charges as far as my memory can correct.
Les, let me just, the question about how the people were charged, did the police pick them up, or were they asked to come into the station?
Thank you very much. In this case, the police officers, I am not clear whether we actually went to pick them up or whether they were asked to report to the station. I'll have to get verification on that. But needless to say, the persons were in the station, and when we had the medical form returned, we were able to finalize investigation and interviews with relevant witness to be able to lay the charge.
And finally, my question is, from the police investigation, Saturday we were issued with a press release that an investigation has been launched. For your investigation so far, have you been able to discover whether it is true or not that the police told the family this is a private matter?
Thank you again for this question, Linda. I cannot refute what an individual indicates that they may have heard. But what I want to say to you is that the issuance of a medical form states clearly or indicates clearly that the police is investigating this matter. And from my experience, when the police attend incidents, and a critical role of the police is to assist in conflict resolution so that they do not evolve into criminal charges or crimes. And sometimes when we attend those conflict issues, for example, land disputes, we advise people that the matter may be a civil matter. And in those cases, we do not issue anything. But just as we do, for example, in a traffic case, and if you investigate and the person is likely to be prosecuted, the police issue you a notice of intended prosecution. And so as it is in harm offenses, where the police needs clarity on the type of offense or the type of harm caused on an individual, we issue a medical form. We need to draw our minds as a people to the fact that this situation, and certainly from my understanding, is one that evoked a high level of emotion, anxiety, and probably anger from members. So at the material point in time, a number of possibilities could have occurred. And so I'm not faulting anyone to say who's right or wrong and here and in here. We can speak only to the facts of the matter. And the police has been doing this for over 100 years. This police force has been responding to harm offenses. And when we respond, we issue a medical form. The matter is investigated, not to issue a medical form and to tell you, here is a medical form, go and take private action. It does not sound possible. But I will say here that I have been briefed that at the situation, parties may have expressed the intention to pursue civil action in the matter. And the police may have indicated that that is your right. I don't know if the police probably saying that is your right is construed as private action, but the issuance of the form is testimony that the police is investigating this as a criminal offense. I hope that adds some clarity for the general public, and I do hope that it answers your question.
Thank you very much, Linda. Janelle, you have another question?
Yes, sorry, Les. I wanted to go back a bit to the responsibility of owners. I know Superintendent Cohen said there are various pieces of legislation which guides that. But I just wanted to find out. The one we're familiar with is the responsibility of owners to have their dogs on a leash or within the confines of their compound. So in an instance when you have a dog chasing down a vehicle, isn't that a clear indication that there has been a breach of the legislation?
Thank you, Janelle. I do not want to say at this point whether or not there was or was not a breach. Hence the reason why the matter is currently under investigation. All of the facts in this matter are not yet out. We are drilling down into exactly what might have happened last Thursday. And I think it will be too quick for me to jump to conclusion at this point. We have to get all of the facts in, look at all of the legislation and see what fits. Before then, I think it would be premature to say what entails or what does not entail. If the facts fits the circumstance that you have just mentioned, yes, it will violate the regulation, and yes, charges may be laid. I don't know that yet. We're just gathering all of the facts. Some of the information are already in, hence the reason we were able to make the charges that we have made. As Commissioner has indicated, we are still drilling down into some of the other circumstances of the accident and also the circumstances involving the dog, whether it was on a leash, whether it was not on a leash, how was it being carried, and all those issues are issues that are still out there being put together. So at the appropriate time, we will make that determination and that decision based on the availability of the evidence so to do.
Thank you. Somebody in social media is asking, how does the police plan to deal with congregating for Fisherman's birthday as is happening right now?
That's a very good question. As a matter of fact, it certainly is a challenge that we are dealing with, and we have dealt with it last night. We have taken some measures to ensure that we get public support and cooperation in this matter. Today, the police was directed to engage a number of stakeholders and individuals in the community to further advise why the actions that are being taken is ill-advised, as a soft approach to educate members of the public further that we need to behave in a particular context given the COVID environment in which we operate. However, we are also going to put additional personnel to assist the Western Division and the Grove Police Station should in case there is a need to respond to any major law enforcement challenges that seem to get out of hand. As Commissioner, I do trust that individuals will exercise good reason and understanding, as is customary to our Grenadian culture, and behave appropriately so that no further issues will be required in this manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Colleagues, we have to wrap up shortly. Anybody has any final question? No? All right, it seems as though we've exhausted all our questions. So, gentlemen, I'll give you the opportunity to make any final comments that you may have. Commissioner, do you want to start?
Thank you again, Leslie. And I just want to use the opportunity to reinforce the fact that your police force, the RGPF, it's not my police force, it's the police force of Grenada, your police force, stands ready and committed to serve members of the public at all points in time with an interest to ensure the safety and security of our society. I want to appeal to you to continue to work with us as we strive to do our best in ensuring that the highest quality of law enforcement services is delivered to you. Are we a perfect organization? The answer is no. Have we made mistakes? Yes, we have. But one thing this RGPF is not short of is an overwhelming desire to ensure the safety and security of this country and its people, and to deliver the highest quality of law enforcement efforts. I thank you again for your general support, and I look forward to your continued cooperation as we continue to fight against COVID and as we prepare for the hurricane season. Thank you, and stay safe.
Thank you, Leslie. And I also just want to remind the public, as I indicated before, that we are still under 24-hour curfew. And so whereas there easements and restriction to movements, etc., the period that is allowed for persons to move about, remember that they are for specific purposes, except with the new regulations if, for example, going to the beach, which is allowed now from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. If that does not change, we ask persons to be tolerant. When you go to the beach, you're expected to leave by 5. We have had incidents in a number of areas where persons would have to call the police because when persons get into the water 6 and 7, they don't want to leave. Please, let us cooperate with the police officers who would advise you that a time is coming close and you will have to leave. And remember, we are still under curfew except things change with the new regulations. Be safe and thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Superintendent Cohen.
In closing, I must say that I have been following all of the expressions on social media and elsewhere, and everybody seems to be calling for justice in the Fort Judy matter. But I want to urge the public: when we talk about justice, we're talking about due process, yeah, and due process must have its place in this particular matter. Due process requires a thorough investigation, charges being laid, and people are having their day in court and having a fair trial. So when we're saying that we want justice, is an indication that there is no justice. But it's only 3 days ago this matter has happened, and we have already moved speedily to have 2 persons arrested. We are continuing to investigate. Yeah, this is not a matter that is being swept under the rug or sides are being taken here for any reason. We have done what we have done as a professional organization over the years, and we will continue to do that. I assure the public that please give us an opportunity to thoroughly investigate this matter and to bring charges where charges need to be laid, and that everyone involved who has violated some sort of law, some sort of rules or regulation will have an opportunity in court to defend their side of the story. So I urge and continue to urge for calm and let the process run its course. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you so very much. Acting Commissioner of Police Edwin Martin, sitting closest to me, Assistant Commissioner Michael Francois, and Superintendent Fanny Kerwin, thank you so very much for being here today. Colleagues, we do thank you as well for your continued participation. Please have a good afternoon. And before we leave, let's just remind you that the Ministry of Youth Development, Sports, Culture and the Arts is having another debate this afternoon, so stay tuned to the Government Information Service. It starts at 5:30 p.m. and that is St. David. With the present economic crisis propelled by COVID-19, the government of Grenada should move to legalize all forms of gambling in an effort to boost the economy. That is what they're debating this afternoon. So as I mentioned, stay with us. That begins at 5:30. Have a pleasant afternoon, everybody. Thank you.